I'm joined today by Peter Kahn, CEO of Fight Game Advisors. Peter, thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure, Eddie. Thank you. And I'm just going to say it. Happy birthday.
I appreciate that.
I just want to get it out there.
I appreciate that.
It is your birthday.
I turned the big 3-3 today. The bald head, if I could talk straight, sells me a little short, but
you're looking good, man.
Thank you.
Hey, look, it's been a tough year for everyone.
Hey, I was jealous of Xander's hair. We're done talking about all that. And yours as well. You could donate later.
Yes.
Peter, as we share your story today, inside and outside of boxing, we're going to learn more about you, and cannot wait. So let's get going.
Sure.
Talk to me about where you were born and your childhood.
So I was born in the Bronx, New York, Pelham Parkway, Albert Einstein Hospital. 1972, 48 years old. Then grew up primarily on Long Island in Plainview. For high school, moved to Dallas, Texas, of all places. My father ended up transferring for work, got an opportunity there, and then went to Syracuse University, and then back to Manhattan, and then to South Florida, and where I've been ever since 94.
A lot happening there, a lot of moves.
Yeah, so that was pretty much it. There we go. There's the timeline.
As far as growing up in New York and then moving, obviously, talk to us about your experiences as a child.
I mean, look, New York's the best. It's the best, I mean, growing up in the Bronx, both my parents were from the Bronx, born and raised in the Bronx. So, look, New Yorkers. I mean, you're still a New Yorker. I mean, I'm not going to sell you short, okay? I mean, I know it's Rochester, okay?
Shout out to Rochester.
I mean, but, from the city, from the boogie down.
Right.
And
I was born in the BK, so you can give me a little credit.
Okay, I give you credit. Okay.
All right, downtown area.
There you
Actually,
go.
my grandmother just moved 2 years ago, Daytona Beach area, I want to say. She was in the city for 50 years.
Right. I mean, New York's great. What can you say? Growing up in New York, growing up in New York in the 70s and 80s, just great opportunity. I mean, it's the center of the universe. It's a melting pot. It's just the ultimate place to experience everything. And you just learn a lot about life at a young age and just how to get along in this world, I think. And New Yorkers are very particular people.
Definitely.
And I think it leaves a mark on you forever. I don't think that ever changes.
It creates a different type of person. And as you adjust to the world around you, it just makes things easier for me, at least. I knew that.
Right.
Obviously, being in, as they call it, Rottenchester, we're not gonna throw Rochester under the bus.
No, Rochester's great, man. It's just cold.
Too cold. I don't miss it, man.
Just cold.
I don't miss it at all. Today, I think the last week has been like 70s, but we won't talk about weather. We'll stick to our warm weather here.
Exactly.
In regards to Syracuse University, grew up a huge Syracuse basketball fan.
Right.
How'd you end up in Syracuse University?
So I played soccer growing up and, got to an elite level and was recruited by many different schools, and I ended up getting recruited to Syracuse.
Okay.
And I primarily went there to play Division I soccer at the time in the Big East.
That's awesome.
And so I was a goalkeeper.
Goalie.
All 5'9.5" of me. I could fly, baby.
That's interesting. I played, because I played 15 years myself.
Right.
Travel soccer. Wasn't that great. Had a collapsed lung at 18. That was the end of my career.
Oh, wow.
So that was the end of that. Saw death in the face, essentially. I had a collapsed lung.
Jeez.
Paul Felder fought last night in the UFC. He actually had a collapsed lung in a fight.
Really?
Spontaneous pneumothorax, it's called.
That's crazy.
Crazy stuff. They had to put a catheter in. I was in the hospital about a week, and they reinflate your lung.
Oof.
I had a small wrestling career.
Right.
As you know, wrestling's big in upstate.
Yep, of course.
Wasn't that great, but it's not
Eddie,
about
you're
me
selling
today.
yourself so short here today. It's your birthday, babe. We got to build you up.
That's why I'm getting a little bit of my plug today.
Okay.
So, get to Syracuse.
Yep.
You do
Play
the soccer thing.
Mm-hmm.
And was there any aspirations?
I also fought as an amateur boxer.
Okay.
So I had 40 fights. As an amateur, I fought at 142 pounds.
Okay.
Something like that.
So junior welter?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but the I don't remember what the weight was exactly, but it wasn't like the pros. You know what I mean? It was like, but anyway, I fought, maybe it was 145.
Okay.
Anyway, point being is that was like my introduction to boxing also was at the same time. I was always enamored with boxing. But, I excelled at soccer. That took me far. It took me to college. At the time, in the late 80s, early 90s, it wasn't like Europe was like, clamoring to sign professional soccer players from the United States. So like everyone's dream is to play in the English Premier League or the Serie A or the Bundesliga or all these leagues, La Liga, but
Yeah.
you know, they grow them over there. You know, it's just
It still
like,
hasn't grown here.
well, you know, it's like the Europeans now that are able to come here and be successful in the NBA. They're still a dime a dozen, you know. And back then in soccer, it was the same thing. The MLS was just getting ready to kick off after the '94 World Cup. It just wasn't a career path. As much as I wanted it to be,
Yeah.
it wasn't a career path. So boxing was just something that I really enjoyed to compete in. I think it just kind of went just hand in hand with my mindset and also being a goalkeeper. As a goalkeeper, you didn't really feel like you were part of a soccer team. It's a very lonely position.
Yeah.
Because you make saves, it's great, but you're never attributed with like winning or saving a game. You know, so you're always at some point you're just getting scored on. You know what I mean?
It's almost like a kicker, right? Would you say kicker in football a little bit, a little underappreciated?
Well, no, because
when you make a save, maybe in a shootout.
So a kicker could win the Super Bowl.
It's true.
I mean, and it doesn't have to be a weird circumstance of having to go to like overtime and sudden death and then get to a shootout, right? And in the shootout, usually more times than not, it's always won by the guy that gets the last kick, not by the keeper that gets the last save.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I mean, you know, so the thing is, there's not a lot of glory in the position.
Understood.
So, you know, you kind of feel alone. It's like almost playing, you know, a solo sport. And the same thing with boxing. You know, primarily it's you.
So getting introduced to boxing, you trained under U.S. Hall of Fame USA Olympic boxing coach Tom Coulter.
Tom Coulter, which was, you know, just sort of serendipity because he was based out of Syracuse. So it's just, you know, I used to get on the bus. I didn't have a car when I was at Syracuse. And so I would go from class to soccer practice and then get on a bus to go off campus to go to his gym and then take the bus back. I had like a full schedule. And I'd get up at 4 a.m. to do road work. So, I mean, that was my thing. I mean, look, I was, you know, 18 years old. And that's, for me, it was all about playing soccer, boxing, going to school, having fun. You know, life was just starting.
So that amateur career, is that Police Athletic League? Is that
USA Boxing?
USA Boxing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I found my book recently. So
Awesome.
I still have my book. So, you know, it's USA Boxing, you know.
Awesome. That's truly an experience. So as you transitioned with that amateur career, was there any aspirations beyond just with the boxing as far as the amateur pedigree?
So there were. So initially after school, I wanted to work in the music business. And so I'll give you like the quick version of that. So the quick version of that is like my first ever job, which I haven't really like publicly talked about it like in any interviews or like no one's like really written about it like extensively. Yeah. So my first job was working, well, I kind of was, I guess, mentioned in the Ring magazine story. I think that was back in June. So I worked for an R&B and hip hop booking agency called Famous Artist Agency. And I was basically just like a glorified intern. You know, entry-level position, you know, back, you know, 1993. And long story short is I worked there and then I moonlighted at another place called Crushing, which was a studio jingle house where they would produce jingles, you know, for some major brands, right? So the ad agencies would use them to produce their jingles. And once again, I'd clean up the studios. I would make copies of the DAT tapes to send out to the clients. Nothing really important, right? But I had access to the studios. So one day I meet these guys through a whole set of circumstances. They tell me they're a band. I tell them I'm a manager. Now they hadn't played any music together yet. One of the brothers of one of the guys actually writes music and played music, and I really didn't manage anybody. But I was look, we both lied to each other, okay? It made us feel good at the time. Then they bring the brother from Leeds, England. I then bring him in the studio. Over the course of 9 months, we produce a full demo. And then through my job at the booking agency, I get to know the A&R person at Sire Records, which is part of Warner Brothers. Wow. And I get this group signed to Sire. Less than a year later, they have a #1 hit in 1994 or 95 called In the Meantime. So the group was Space Hawk. And they were like, you know, a one-hit wonder. They had a few albums. But they were a big deal with that hit at that time. Yeah. I'm like, this stuff's easy. Like you get out of school, you get a job, you hook up with these guys, you make a record. Now I'm going to go down to Florida. I'm going to start my professional boxing career.
Real quick, At Syracuse, what did you study?
Psychology.
Okay. That was the focus.
Listen, still helping me today.
I study sociology.
Okay.
And sports admin.
Right.
So.
Yeah, sports admin didn't exist back when I was in school. That wasn't like there was no sports business, curriculum. So I then moved down to South Florida because my parents had moved to Florida, and I'm going to, start my pro boxing career. Because I figured, look, I was able to do this. You get the #1 hit with this group, and things are going good. So now let's just transition into the box. I'll be a world champion. We'll just keep going. So I was training. In fact, you spoke with Xander, and he talked about his Davy pal coach, Pete Balkunas.
Yes. I
was training with him, I think, before Xander was born.
Wow. Talk about.
Isn't that crazy how those paths cross?
The irony in that. That's that's pretty wild.
So
time flies.
Yeah. So in fact, of course, before he was born, way before he was born, like a decade before he was born, I was training with Pete. Anyway, I was in the gym. I was told very quickly that I wasn't going to be a world champion. You
had to come to Jesus moment.
Yeah. Okay. And so I ended up working on a show for Don King, who had come down here at the same time.
Deerfield Beach?
Well, it was Oakland Park at the time.
Okay.
Then transitioned to Deerfield. But at the time, it was I-95 and Oakland Park Boulevard. So I worked on a show that a local promoter was hired to do all the grunt work. He then hired me. I did all the grunt work, like everything for that show. I remember the first thing I ever did, and this is going back to 94. The first thing I did was everything, and I'll never forget it. This is 94. I have to license Freddie Roach and Frankie Lyles. Okay.
Wow.
Long before anybody really cared about Freddie, he was just a fighter that had retired and was now just going to start training people. Frankie Lyles was, I believe, the WBA cruiserweight champion at the time. A Syracuse guy.
No way.
Yeah. So,
wow.
So that was the start of it. I didn't get paid as promised. I was disappointed. So, look, I didn't care. I called Don King Productions every day asking for my money. It was like, where's my $2? What was that movie? Anyway, it was, that I was all over it, right?
Right.
They then asked me to come in, and they're like, oh, you're the guy that was doing everything. I'm like, yeah, I didn't get paid. They're like, okay, well, listen, it's going to be trial by fire. I'm like, what's going to be trial by fire? They're like, oh, you're hired. I didn't even apply. They're like, wow. You leave on Monday. You're going to Las Vegas for Tyson McNeely. I'm like, okay. And literally, Monday I'm on a plane to Vegas, and that was it. Next thing you know, I'm fight week or fight month.
In Vegas.
In Vegas at the MGM Grand. Back then, I was part of the advanced, I was in boxing operations, and I was part of the advanced team for Don King Productions. So everything having to do with Mike Tyson, Felix Trinidad, and this goes back to when they were still prime. I mean, Trinidad just won the title from Maurice Blocker, really a new champion. Right. Julio Cesar Chavez, Ricardo Lopez, all these champions, and everybody in between. It's when I first met Bernard Hopkins. Just anybody and everybody that was with Don King Productions at the time, I was intimately involved with. And so at the time, a lot of people would have found it to be beneath them. But the way my mind worked was being the executive assistant for Dana Jameson at the time, who was the vice president of boxing operations. A lot of people are like, oh, you're executive assistant for this woman. Listen, anyone that wanted to talk to Don King had to talk to Dana Jameson. Anyone who wanted to talk to Dana Jameson had to talk to me. All those phone calls came through me. I got to know everybody. Wow. Every president of every sanctioning body, from Jose Suleiman, Gilberto Mendoza Sr., Francisco Paco Valcarcel. At the time it was Bob Lee for the IBF, then it was Marion Muhammad, now it's Darryl People. All these people I've known now 25 plus years. And they had to come through me and be nice to me because they all wanted to talk to her so they could talk to Don, including the managers who always wanted to garner favor with me so that this way, I was kind of like a vehicle for them, a vessel to help move things along. then the fighters. So I just, it was a great opportunity for me.
It's a massive network.
Right. And I was smart enough to just be quiet and just do what I was supposed to do. And, people are like, oh, what was it like back then? I'm like, well, just like you and I are sitting here today, I shared like a cubicle with somebody who at the time was a coordinator.
Real quick, he's a trainer? I'm going to guess at this.
Mm-hmm.
He's a trainer.
Yeah.
The guy used to train Golovkin.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
say it. You can say it. Abel Sanchez.
Abel Sanchez.
Used to sit across from me.
Wow.
Now, this is going back to 94, 95, 96. I learned a lot from Abel back then. But a lot of people don't know this. Like, I've known these people so long, right? And, it's just, the one thing I tell the fighters that I work with, the one thing that I share with them that I tell them is the one thing you can't shortcut in this game is experience. And you just can't. That is why you start with 4-round fights, you move to 6-round fights, 8-round fights, 10-round, then you get to championship level. You just can't shortcut it. And you can't shortcut the process.
I was going to say, it took the words right out of my mouth, the process of boxing in general. And I think nowadays there's that misconception that people can just go from fight 5 and jump into a world title fight. Like, come on.
Right. Well, and Aaron Aponte, by the way, who I manage, who's 1-0, spectacular first-round knockout, right, in October in Kissimmee on Telemundo. He's in the studio with us right now, and I could, peripherally see him, but I did not know that. He's looking at Xander. Can you believe, I didn't know any of this.
He's like, Peter's cool, but I don't know about Peter.
He's like super cool.
Yeah.
He's like, that's my manager. And he says my name right, too. Peter Kahn. Not Peter Kahn.
Yeah, Xander, we're beating Xander up. Peter Kahn.
Hey, Peter Kahn. I like that, though. That's
a hashtag. Don't let anyone steal it.
Exactly.
Man. Don't let anyone steal it. We're going to work on those shirts we talked about earlier, by the way, too.
Yes.
Awesome. So as you're going through this whole process and you're with Don King
Productions,
excuse me. Thank you. What's your mindset? I mean, I
was young.
Okay.
And my mindset was just absorb.
Okay.
Just absorb.
Take everything in.
Well, what I noticed was that all of my peers were in their 40s. All the people that I worked with that had vice president and director positions. These were all men that were in their 40s, and we were 20 plus years apart. But I would just be quiet and learn. I had different names: the Kid, Johnny on the Spot, PD Ballgame. Everyone had a nickname for me, And so
he threw me off, PD Ballgame. Okay.
Everybody had a name for me. I just remember back then. You know,
sharp memory, man.
Well, it made it, but I lived in the moment.
Okay.
And so I just lived in the moment, was always in the present. And, remember, there were no distractions like there are today. There was no internet. There were no cell phones. There was no texting. There was no email. In large part, things were very simple. Now, we did have beepers.
Yeah, the beeper.
Don got us those really nice Motorola, top of the line beepers. And if you didn't find a phone to call back in 5 minutes, you'd be an FMF. That's what Don would say.
Okay.
If you could figure, it's fired mother.
Okay. Beep.
Right.
So what's your best story about as far in regards to getting a beep and returning a call or not?
I mean, I was always Johnny
on the spot. FMF story?
Yeah. So the most interesting story revolves around, I was a co-manager for Robert Garcia, who's, you're familiar with Robert Garcia.
The Bull.
He's an excellent trainer.
Got some. I don't call people animals, but he got some animals in that gym.
He's just a very, very good trainer, and it's like the family lineage. His father Eduardo. It's just they're just it's a boxing family.
Met his nephew, great guy.
They're they're great. Great group of people, just really knowledgeable, very professional. And Robert was a very good fighter too.
Solid. And
I was his co-manager, and so at the time there was no Muhammad Ali Reform Act. So you could actually manage a fighter and then work for the promoter. It's so, just saying that out loud, I need to go take a shower.
Yeah.
Because it just sounds so bad.
I blink my eyes twice because that's
right. You're like, okay, let's go to a different topic. So, but at the time it just wasn't it wasn't as bad as it sounds now.
Okay.
So at the time, imagine you're working for the promoter, you manage the fighter, and now you're renegotiating the fighter's contract with the promoter in the promoter's office of whom you're employed by. Very weird situation, right?
Yeah.
So then we're in the office, And then next thing I know, Eduardo has to go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom as well. I come back. Don locks me out of the office. And it's glass, and I'm like banging on the glass. Okay? And like Robert's just like looking like with his dad, right? And I could see Don just like talking, right? And then I get escorted out to bed. I'm like, I work here.
Wow.
I didn't even get fired. But
So it wasn't FMF that day.
No, but it was weird.
Is that just how Don rolled?
It was just
listen,
I have a lot of stories. Some I can never tell. But it was just
right. Those are in the vault.
Yeah, it's just you know.
That's for a book, Peter.
Well, look, I told Michael Buffer, right? So I'm friendly with Michael Buffer, great guy, and you know the Hall of Fame ring announcer, right? So Michael and I were talking. We were in Monaco. I had someone fighting for the world title a few years ago. Trent Broadhurst against Dimitri Bivol. Didn't end so well for us.
Yep.
So anyway, we had a week in Monaco, which was not so bad, Monte Carlo. So it was Michael's birthday. Yeah. We're hanging out, and I'm like, listen, I really got to write your book. I'm like, you must have the greatest stories of all those years. Like I said, who's seen more fights than you and Jimmy Lennon Jr.? Who? You guys have been the ring announcers for some of the greatest fights in history over the last 30, 35 years.
I can't think of the day that they're not out there.
Mega fights.
Yeah.
And they're right there. And they also are part of the weigh-in and the fight weekend. He's like, look, he's like, I'd have to be dead and then you can publish it with the stories that he could tell.
Is that?
I feel the same way.
So that's okay. We'll work on that.
So
there's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, especially from that era. Remember, I had close proximity. You know, I was the camp coordinator for Mike Tyson's camp for the second Holyfield fight. I was there for all of the fights for McNeely, for Buster Mathis Jr., for Bruce Seldon, Holyfield. You know what I mean? Like I was just, I was in the mix.
As you continue to put your foot into boxing in that world, and you move forward with it, was this the end-all, be-all? Was that kind of your mindset?
It's a good question. So I woke up one day at Fantasy Springs, back in the day before Fantasy Springs was, you know, what it is today.
Big resort, right.
Back then, the ring was set up in the parking lot, and the canopy, and then seats. Yeah.
Wow.
I was part of the first, I think the first ever shows done at Fantasy Springs. You know, we were part of, with Miguel Angel Gonzalez, and had Henry Akinwande fight, oh gosh.
Going back.
Yeah. Jeremy Williams.
Okay.
Sometimes I go on YouTube and I search some of these fights, and then I see like the 23-year-old version of me in the ring.
How's the suit?
See, I'm chewing gum with a t-shirt. You know, I'm like, oh my god, just look really young.
Yeah.
So I woke up one day in Fantasy Springs,
right?
And I was like, I can't be a lifer. Like I've got to do other things. Like I can't be like these people. Like I can't just let the time go by and turn around and be like, this is all I ever did. This is all I ever tried to do. So I stepped away for a little bit, and I started a marketing company.
Hardwired
Marketing. Yep, Hardwired Marketing Group, with a focus on a more boutique, award-winning creative. We would sell sponsorship, create strategic partnerships for companies. We had such a strong network. We would introduce companies to each other. So it was great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I really didn't even pay attention to boxing for a while. Like I missed an era that I knew the fighters because they were all the next up and come. But I stepped away for a little bit. I needed to know that if I wanted to come back, it's because I really wanted to do it, because it's in you. And that, that's another, and so it leads me to another question. I mean, another part of that question was, my wife asked me last night when I brought her in the back to, show her the whole setup here. And she's been with me to world title fights and on the biggest stage, and I showed her the room in the back, and she looked around and she said, why boxing? Like what makes all of you in this room watching all the different camps at their tables, whether guys are getting wrapped, warming up? And I said, it speaks to us. It speaks to us, whether it's the fighter or the trainer or a manager or an inspector with the commission. It talks to us, to each of us some way.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to put it.
We're getting very philosophical.
We are here. But I do get chills. It gets a little weird because as you're speaking about it, I have an understanding of that. And speaking even to Xander earlier, and the just what's coming and what he's going to be able to do, Aaron as well, and they're moving forward into a era of boxing where everything is seen, right?
Yes.
And it's on Front Street.
Right.
As they continue to move forward and what they can do in the sport. It's just one of those sports. It's not like the NFL. It's not like NBA. And as I just think, I don't know, it's speaking to me as I talk to them,
right.
even. And as you're talking about just being around the ring and what the whole boxing world is about. And you got to see that firsthand. I mean, you were driving front seat in the car, stepped away, the car goes by, and you said, man, I kind of want to jump back in.
Right. But I jumped back in and did it the way I wanted to do it. So, I always joke around with Xander because, as you know, everything we've done, I've modeled after everything I didn't want to do. Growing up in this business in an era where managers took 33 1/3% from fighters, where trainers who would get 10% would have animosity against the manager. This guy makes a phone call. He doesn't even show up to some of the fights. He gets 33 1/3. I'm in the gym every day. I'm busting my butt. I get 10%. This guy's, has it great. Then you turn around and the fighter's already out 43 1/3% before they step in the ring. What kind of incentive is that?
Wow.
When they take all the risk. So it might seem like, oh, well, you're a bad businessman. No, I'm not. I can go to sleep at night and not be concerned as to how I operate my business. But I also know that the fighters I represent could go to sleep at night and not be concerned that I have my hand in their pocket for 33 1/3. And I'm the first guy they want to pay. I'm the first guy that they want to thank. You know what I mean? But I'm also hands-on. So I decided that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it that way. And I'd rather operate on volume versus just really trying to find a few guys. So then I have this joke with Xander. Peter Kahn likes me to 10% in perpetuity. He's like, what's perpetuity? I'm like, don't worry about it. But for me, it was like, if I'm going to do it. And really the way that it happened was I was at a school meet and greet. I have 3 sons. And it was like when you meet the teacher, like, what is it called?
Teacher orientation.
Orientation, thank you.
Yeah.
So, exactly. And I'm getting these like text messages and phone calls frantically from Randall Bailey, the former 3-time 2-division world champion at 140 pounds, 147 pounds, KO king.
Right.
Just a vicious KO puncher. And I had a friendship with Randall. Randall started with Don King back when I was there. And I had known him through the years. His manager had passed away, and Randall was making a one last push, and he said, I really need you I need you.
Wow.
He's like, we got to go to Korea. I'm like, Korea? He's like, I'm fighting in Korea. I'm like, what am I doing? But that was the push.
Right.
And then from there, I just went,
full go.
Put my foot on the gas pedal, and that was that. But it was a decision. It's like flipping a switch.
Interesting.
But my relationships never changed.
Yeah, and I see that. I mean, for someone in meeting you, Peter, in the first time and seeing you in the corner, literally.
Yeah.
Getting ready with Xander or Aaron or other fighters, it just goes to show you the person you are. Bringing the coffee to the gym in the morning. I saw that recent documentary.
Yeah.
I can never say that word right. People kick me for it.
Documentary.
Documentary. I talk so darn fast.
That's okay.
But just seeing that and, it shows your character. And that the 10% as opposed to 33 numbers are a game, that doesn't matter. It's out the window.
Right.
You're hands-on. And like you said, I don't know how many managers I've seen that you actually see. You might see them in the crowd talking to 50 people, let alone watching their fighters. So it just goes to show your character and your
but you know
testament.
What? Not a lot's changed.
Unfortunately.
Mauricio Suleiman is now the president of the WBC. Well, I knew him when his dad was the president. Gilberto Mendoza Jr. is now the president of the WBA. I knew his dad very well.
It's Paco.
Paco, I know
WBO.
very well. Daryl Peoples was just starting with the IBF, and now he's the president.
He's
I know
running
him.
the show.
So access to sanctioning bodies, the promoters are the same. Bob Arum's still going strong.
Yeah.
Okay. Golden Boy has been around now for almost 20 years, going on close to 20 years.
Speaking of all these different, obviously, I'm trying to find the word. In regards to Fight Game Advisors, when does that go full go?
What do you mean?
When does it essentially become? because you transitioned. You were
Right.
Because you were doing the managing.
Mm-hmm.
And when did you go full go with FGA?
Maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Oh, so when did Triple G fight Danny Jacobs? Was that 2016 or 17?
Put me on the spot.
I think 2017, maybe March 18th, 2017. Could somebody look this up?
Look it up.
Jacobs Golovkin, March 18th, 2017.
Look it up real quick.
If it is, I get like a prize. I'm going with March 18, 2017.
Let's look it up real quick. Triple G versus Jacobs. Let's see what we got here. And you said, what was it again? Because we have
I'm guessing March 18, 2017.
And where was it?
Madison Square Garden.
It's spot on, man.
Okay.
March 18, 2017.
Yeah.
I'm not taking you for steak dinner, right? Because I can't afford that. You can.
Yeah. So that night, the night before, actually 2 nights before, was the Boxing Writers Association of America dinner. And I went to that dinner. And that's when they give out the awards: Fighter of the Year, Trainer of the Year, Promoter of the Year, Fight of the Year, Knockout of the Year, Comeback of the Year,
right.
Manager of the Year. And I'm looking around this room, and I know everybody in the room. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to put my foot on the gas pedal, and I'm going to be here in the middle of everything sooner than later. And I went with a generic, more all-encompassing name, Fight Game Advisor. It's not just about me. I could bring people in. It opens the door to not just be about Peter Kahn. You know,
Right.
It's a company environment. It's a team environment. And that's how I wanted to do that. And so it was then, you know, we're going to be going on 4 years now.
Wow.
And it was that night that when I looked around and I said, okay. And then, you know, 2019, I'm nominated for Manager of the Year.
Wow.
And, you know what I mean? So
yeah, you went full
a
go.
couple years later, there I am, you know, back in that mix. And you know, now it's just the foot's on the pedal. I mean,
Yeah, you guys
it's
are full
going.
go.
Oh, it's
You guys
going.
are
I
full
mean,
go.
2019 was a good year.
Mhm.
With everything happening in 2020, there's, you know,
Still getting fighters fights.
more blessings. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you don't have to look as far as Xander has fought 4 times in 2020.
Yep.
Aaron Aponte got his pro debut off the ground on Telemundo. George Kambosos just became the mandatory for Teofimo Lopez. Emmanuel Tago is fighting November 27th. He wins that fight. We're going to fight Devin Haney. There's just, you know, Logan Holler's back in the ring. Chris Van Heerden is going to be back soon. He's a top 25 welterweight. He'll be in a meaningful fight. Dennis Hogan, I can't say who he's fighting. He'll be back in December in a big fight. Remember, he had the world title fight against Munguia, which he got robbed. Then he had the Charlo fight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's back in the mix.
The Charlo fight as well, yeah.
You know, we have a mix of up and coming, and then we have a mix of guys that are knocking on the door.
They're right there.
Right there. So
How many under the banner?
19 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And who was your first?
Back in the mix, Chris Van Heerden.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Randall
Bailey, you said you had.
and you know, and it's
okay.
funny because people go, oh, well, you know, we went on this one final run. We lost to Jeff Horn. And then, of course, Jeff Horn went on to beat Pacquiao and fought Crawford. I mean, you know, wasn't a nobody Olympian,
not.
you know.
Yeah, in the mix, for sure.
And along the way, just, you know, I'm as deep in it as I can be.
And you did it on your own.
On my own.
That's awesome.
But the way I wanted to do it. And I'm very vocal. I have a chat. I have a Fight Game Advisors chat that only has the fighters.
Wow.
They could all sit in a circle, hold hands, and, hey, what does he take from you? What is the percent? Does he call you all the time? Does he text you? Does he just check in to say this and that? And, oh, he actually goes with you. He'll take you there. And, you know, I like to be involved. And, you know, the guys make the joke, like, when do you sleep? Because they know that and look, it's true.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I make this joke. I say this like tongue in cheek, but it's really not. Obviously, you know, when you're married and you're getting text messages and WhatsApp messages and phone calls at 2 in the morning.
From me at 11 o'clock at night.
Well, 2:30 in the morning. Any normal one, who's texting you at 2:30? Well, who's that? You know, Jake from State Farm. You know, no, you know. But it's like she doesn't even bat an eye anymore. Like I can get up out of the room with the phone whispering, walk outside.
Wow.
And she just knows I'm on the phone with someone from another part of the world, or something's pressing.
Definitely.
Because boxing is that type of business. It really doesn't sleep.
It doesn't. The train keeps moving. Speaking about at-home life, you said you had three
boys, 18, 13, and 11.
Let's give them a shout-out.
Oh, Giancarlo, Ethan, and Mateo. They'll be happy to hear their shout-out. And they're also very understanding, and they get it. They live this. I mean, look, yesterday, we realized halfway to Orlando that Danny Jacobs was going to be at the gym at 2 o'clock and that none of us were there to let him in. Okay? We're like, you know what? We might not want to mess that up for Danny since he's finishing camp at the gym. My son Giancarlo got the keys, went to the gym, opened up, let them do their thing, locked it up, and left. So, you know, they've all been to world title fights.
Team players.
Yeah, they've traveled with us to Vegas, to New York. They've been to gyms in different cities, anywhere we go, they know we're stopping off at some boxing gym to see somebody. And they've participated, and they're real patient. The biggest supporters. I get WhatsApp videos and messages, even when Kambosos beat Lee Selby to become the mandatory. I mean, you know, we get back to the dressing room, catch our breath. I have a video of their reaction to the decision being read. And it's just bedlam.
That's awesome.
You know, and they tuned in last night. I mean, I couldn't get any more support than I do, and especially my wife. I mean, what normal woman would be able to deal in this environment?
Yeah.
You know, remember, most fighters, they live in their own universe. It's really about them and their team. Maybe they fight 3 or 4 times a year. I've got 19 fighting at least 3 times a year. Imagine almost 60. That's what, 60? Yeah.
Right there.
60 fights, 60 fight weeks. There's not that many fight weeks there's not many weeks in a year.
Wow.
So there's always something happening. And so she's very patient with it because that's what I do.
As far as all that,
and her name's Magda, by the way.
Let's give a shout out.
From Colombia originally.
Oh, okay. Colombian.
That's right.
Awesome.
Beautiful women.
Yes, I agree.
Fiery.
Yeah.
Latina,
that's for sure. I was going to say, man.
That's it.
Favorite trip? What's been your favorite trip? All this travel over the years, or favorite experience, I guess.
So trip, Kissimmee, Florida. So the trip, there's been a lot of them. I mean, the great thing about boxing is you really find yourself have an opportunity to go everywhere. I've been to Australia twice, been to Moscow, been to, like I said, Monte Carlo, been to Japan, South Korea. I've been to, the UK. I've been to Malaysia. Been to just so many unique places that I probably normally wouldn't have gone to. And I'm missing places right now. Like, I'm just like forgetting like another probably like 5 really cool places, where we've had shows. But an interesting experience I had was when Dennis Hogan fought Jaime Munguia. This is recent. I mean, I've had so many over the years, and I've been, to so many big fights in the United States, whether it's been at Madison Square Garden or whether it's been, in Las Vegas. But there was a moment in Monterey where I just kind of looked around, and it was like just this hostile crowd in Mexico. We're in, foreign territory, and I was thinking to myself, like how did I get here? Like what am I doing here? Right? Like, because I was kind of like, I was really in the moment at that moment, and I was working in the corner, and I work in the corner a lot. And a lot of people always ask me, well, some of the guys, I've been doing it so long and I have so much experience at it that a lot of the times I'm the third guy. There's the head trainer, there's the cut man, and then there's me, because I'm another set of eyes.
Second, right.
I'm another set of eyes there. I know all the rules. I know, but I also know what I'm seeing. I'm the most impartial person that can be in a corner, because if I feel I need to convey something that I see that maybe the trainer's not seeing, I'll tell the trainer will convey it, But to answer your question, it was just that moment in Mexico where it was like, it's just seemed like bedlam. Like we were getting pushed. We didn't have seats in the corner. There are people inside the corral, like pushing us Like, what's going on? This is insane.
Yeah.
You know, all sorts of stuff like that. But I mean, I'm sure I could think of, you know, more, but that was a recent one. But, you know, the travel has been, Athens. I was in Athens with Kambosos last June.
That's awesome.
I mean, yeah, where do you go to like a fight, and during fight week, you just hang out at the Acropolis and the Parthenon? Like, yeah, it's going to go check this
no big
out.
Deal.
or like, you know, run around with kangaroos during fight week, you know, in Australia. So going to Red Square while you're waiting to fight in Moscow. You know, just things like that. Or spending a week with Pacquiao in Kuala Lumpur, like out of all the places.
Yeah. Wow. That's you're talking to someone that hasn't been to California.
Oh,
by the way.
You're kidding.
No.
Okay, we're going to get you to California.
Okay,
you're 33 years old.
It's pretty bad.
I'm going to buy you your ticket.
So college basketball has been my mainstay. So I would say, yeah, mostly Northeast, Southeast, kind of East Coast guy.
Yes.
Went to Triple G, Canelo 1.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about it too much. My first fight in Vegas.
So I think I scored that. I live blogged that for Forbes. I also write the boxing for Forbes.
Yes.
And I think I gave that fight to Triple G. Very close fight. I think he won that fight. But, I mean, it was a close fight.
Close fight.
But I think I had
Triple
won? G winning.
But he won.
Triple
G won. Right?
I think so.
Okay.
I scored it that way.
Okay. And what about the second fight?
You know, the second fight was very close.
Could have been a draw?
So it could have been, but I do believe that, and I wrote a story afterwards saying that I feel that boxing needs to revisit the way that it revisits the way that it scores fights, because of maybe the right man won, but the scores were not correct. Right?
Okay.
Wasn't that the fight where Adelaide Bird had the really the
was,
challenging scorecard?
Yeah, it was.
I called it challenging.
Challenging.
Yeah, I like Robert.
Okay.
I don't want to be.
Yeah, and I don't like to demean or we don't want to exactly, and that's where I stay away from it. But the card, it was a little out there.
Right.
Left field.
But I think, you know, watching how Canelo made adjustments from the first fight, how he became the aggressor, how he did everything he did, and I think, even though I think it was very tough to score, I couldn't really argue that they saw it, you know, his way. So he might have been the beneficiary of close rounds.
Fair enough.
You know, I didn't lose sleep over it.
Okay.
I felt stronger about Kovalev beating Andre Ward in the first fight.
I was just gonna say that. You took it right out of my mouth. Now,
we're fight guys, baby.
Okay.
We share a brain, Eddie.
Have you seen a?
I know what you're thinking right now.
No, just draws in general in a world title fight.
Right.
Back to back. Doesn't happen. So if the first fight Triple G won, okay, but it was scored a draw. Fight 2 can't be a draw. You're not going to have back-to-back draws in world title fight.
So you want to hear a crazy thing?
I could be wrong. Has it ever happened in the history?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look.
That's a crazy question, obviously.
Right. But I'm going to tell you something else.
Okay. We'll go back to Kovalev and Ward in a minute.
So in my story, the preview story, I did the odds. And there was something, and you can check it out because it's there, right? So one of the things that I said in there is I said, look, your best bet of the night for this fight might be a draw at plus $2,000. And I put it as one of my 4 best bets.
Oh, wow.
And sure enough, it was a draw, and a lot of people won a lot of money. So Kovalev.
It's something you never.
So let's go.
Back to that real quick. I should have, ironically, who would have thought a draw, though? And then my first fight in Vegas, it wasn't
inconceivable, okay? Because what I anticipated was that there could be some very close rounds that are tough to score.
Brutal.
And so remember, judges are human.
Right.
So in their minds, they're thinking, oh, that was a close one. I just gave it to Triple G. This is another close one. It's going to go to Canelo. Like, they're trying to, remember, they're human, and it's hard when, like, how do you decipher the extra punch or the extra power punch?
The crowd, let alone
remember, it's not just aggressiveness. It's effective aggressiveness. How much are we giving Canelo credit for not getting hit, even though he's going backwards, because that's his game plan.
Right.
His game plan is to counterpunch, right? So, you know, you have to know these things. So was it inconceivable that they could each win 6 rounds? Not really.
Very true. Well
Kovalev
said.
Ward, come on. What do you got?
Who's the A side? Who's the B side?
Kovalev was the A side in the first fight.
Have we seen a B side fighter get knocked down and win on the scorecard?
I'm sure we have.
In a title fight.
I mean,
probably.
Of course we have.
Right. Okay. What was the I don't know the scores. We got to look this up. But
okay, but it was close.
I have a tough time with it.
Listen,
I had a tough time
thought
with
Kovalev won.
And Ward is awesome. And
yeah,
Kovalev,
it doesn't take
I love these
anything away
guys.
from Andre
I love
Ward.
these guys.
You know, I
But Kovalev won the fight.
I believe that too.
Okay.
But a lot of people believe that. And it's not saying that Andre Ward takes nothing away from Andre Ward. I mean, did Jose Luis Castillo beat Mayweather? I'm just saying, like, you can make arguments for so many fights that were
right.
How many of the fights against Juan Manuel Marquez did Pacquiao win and lose? Other than getting knocked out. What I'm saying is
those
they
first
were close.
Two. Yeah, those
it's
first
tough.
two. It's brutal.
It's tough.
Brutal. And they're fun conversations. Always fun conversations.
Well, you know, look, anytime you have human beings judging fights, you're gonna have dialogue, you're gonna have debate and conversation, you know. So
yeah, definitely. And they always say, don't leave it. You know, our boy Tyson, he never left it to the judges. So
well, yeah, try not to. Hey, in a perfect world, that's everybody's choice.
Right.
But
and I'll be honest, I've heard a lot of fighters over the years tell me it's a lot harder than it looks, as we know, to knock someone out.
right, it's not like pushing a button.
Yeah, and I think people have this misconception of that.
Look, having power is one thing. Being able to,
Execute.
being able to execute is another thing.
And the power translating.
Right.
How exhausted are you going to be 6 rounds, 7 rounds later?
Right.
Your power is not the same.
Right.
But I don't care how good your cardio is.
Right.
The pop might not be there.
So let me ask you something. Okay, because I wanted to ask you this. We were going basketball, Syracuse. Okay. I got to bring you back.
Okay. I love it.
I got to reel you in.
Okay.
Because we're going on tangents here. Let me reel you in. So let's talk about you for a minute.
Okay.
You and I have talked about Puerto Rico.
Yes.
Because Xander fought there in February. Such a great place, right?
Yes.
We were on La Isla Verde.
Trujillo Alto.
Yep, Trujillo Alto.
Correct. Okay.
Great experience. Great for him to come home. A lot of fans. Right.
Fourth fight.
So, you and I were talking about, we're talking about Old San Juan. We were talking about a certain area there. I know you're going back. And I know you wouldn't say it, so I'm going to say it. I know you're going back to help some people that have been having some tough times. I know you're doing a turkey drive.
Yes.
Because we're coming up on Thanksgiving.
Correct.
But tell me about the gym. I'm interviewing you now.
Oh, boy.
So
put me on the spot. You're putting me on the spot.
Tell me about the gym.
Okay.
Tell me about the area. Hey, move your hands. Let me see your shirt.
Yes.
La Perla.
Okay.
Okay, so
Peter's putting the plug on our show. The
there
Sunday
you go,
Sit Down series. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, it's kind of, but then there's a Carmelo Anthony connection. So you got to tell me all this.
And we're going to give a shout out to Eric Devendorf, another
go.
Oak Hill and former Syracuse basketball player who inspired me to start the community service work I do with Team La Perla Boxing and MMA.
Right.
In La Perla in San Juan, Puerto Rico. So friends of mine, Gabriel Lamasas and Angela Magana, and Angela's still fighting. She's actually going to make her pro boxing debut next weekend in Tampa.
Oh, wow.
Who's a former UFC fighter. She's actually going into boxing now. Long story short, I've become friends with them over the years. I did not understand I learned kind of on the go with La Perla. That's where Gabriel actually trained under Miguel Cotto's old trainer, his uncle. Evangelista Cotto.
Sure.
He learned in the Biota gym. I'm sorry if I don't say that right, guys. My Spanglish is ta malo.
This is so terrible.
It is. It's bad. We're gonna work on that though.
I mean,
Xander's over here and Aaron, they're killing me. Yo hablo español un poquito, so don't blame me, okay? So that sounds so bad.
Necesitas hablar español.
I think Peter, we're gonna work on that, right? You're gonna help me. Okay.
Ya tú sabes.
Listen. So back to that. Met Gabriel years ago in the world of boxing. Him and Angela operate Team La Perla Boxing and MMA.
Right.
It's a nonprofit gym for the community in La Perla.
Right.
Any youth that live in the community are allowed to train there. It's an open door policy.
But talk about the area, because a lot of people probably aren't familiar with this area of Puerto Rico.
Okay. So La Perla has been around forever, and essentially it's ran by the community. Okay. You're not really, if you don't live there, you really don't go in there.
Right.
The police don't go in there, but unfortunately, there is so much good. It's a historical place with arts, the community.
And it's right down by the beach.
It's right across from the tourist capital of Puerto Rico, Old San Juan.
Right.
And
right after the fort or before. I'm trying to.
It's in between.
Right.
It's literally years ago. I think it was Univision. I forgot his name. He did a great documentary on it.
There you go again with documentary. My gosh.
Documentary.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I talk fast.
Okay, good.
Mile a minute. So
Univision.
they're doing this. They did the documentary on La Perla, and it really described the community. After Hurricane Maria, the gym was being built at that time. It evolved. We're right on the water. But the community as a whole, everybody works together. And it's truly a special place, and there's so much to it that people don't know about. And at our gym, we want people to come to the gym.
But it has a reputation of being dangerous.
It does. Unfortunately, over the years, through drugs and gang affiliations and things going on the island, it's had a bad rap.
So that's where you're going to do the drive?
The turkey drive, unfortunately, with COVID, we couldn't do it there.
Okay.
We're going to do it at the Monterey gym.
Okay.
Monterey.
Oh, and that's
that good?
we're
Was that
talking
good,
about,
Xander? Monterey?
Bayamon?
And Bayamon.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to go out there. We're going to serve.
Bayamon.
You're from Bayamon.
Not really.
Okay. Good job, Peter.
Thank you.
You said it well, though.
I did.
Bayamon. There you go. We're going to serve the fighters and their families at that gym.
That's excellent.
We're taking some of the team, me, Gabriel, Angela, Nelson Colon, Chavito. We're all going to go out there. Clifford Gibbs as well. We're going to hop over to the gym and serve.
That's awesome.
The families out there. We did a sneaker drive back in March. 300 pairs of sneakers we handed out to the community in La Perla. And
well, listen, let us know moving forward how we can help, because I know, Xander and Aaron, by the way, is half Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Half Argentine.
Okay. He's got an excuse for the Spanish, right? He can get away with it.
I really don't think there's an excuse. My kids are, well, I shouldn't talk. But anyway.
I say Puerto faking. I say Puerto faking. Guys,
right.
don't knock me for it. It sounds corny, but don't use that word because it's my word.
Right.
Okay.
We're gonna make a T-shirt. Hashtag Puerto faking.
Don't give nobody idea. You can't sell our ideas.
10% perpetuity.
Perpetuity. Listen, so as far as what we do, we look to serve. We're a combat sports gym. Okay. Anybody in the community, any youth can train there.
It's a very, very original name, Gimnasio Boxeo.
So we actually changed the logo recently. It says Team La Perla Puerto Rico. We have a beautiful location, one of the best, and I want Xander to come and visit.
Next
he said
time
he's never
we're there,
been into La
count
Perla.
on it. Yeah.
Doors open. We'd
looking
love to
forward
have
to
you. We'd love to have you in there, and Aaron as well, and you and everybody on the team.
We'd love to.
Let's get Javier too.
Absolutely. Javiel's Puerto Rican.
Right. He's a New Yorker.
Via
New
Brooklyn.
Yorker, right?
Yeah, via Brooklyn.
Like myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it.
Yeah. But he speaks fluent Spanish.
Okay. We're gonna move on. So as far as we're looking forward to doing the turkey drive, and I appreciate everybody's support of it and what we do with the community. We're trying to serve others in the island. We have some big projects coming up. Nico Montano is in the UFC. We're going to do a project with the Navajo Nation in Arizona actually next summer. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Well, I think more than ever with what's been going on this year, I think, more than ever, it's a bigger blessing. The fact that you're making the effort, that you're doing it, especially with the risks involved.
Yeah.
That's kudos to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Peter. And it's not about me. It's about the team. And that's what we like to – we can all make a difference.
Right.
And that's why I talked to Xander earlier in the pedestal, and especially someone like you with a pedestal that you have to share that, and that we can all make a difference and help others. Definitely. Peter, your story is astonishing. We could sit here all day and talk.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Definitely. Peter Kahn, Fight Game Advisors, CEO. We didn't even get to talk, about – there was a few things that we missed, and that's okay.
It's all right. FightGameAdvisors.com, at Peter Kahn on Twitter. For those of you that speak Spanish, it's Kahn. Kahn. Everybody spells it wrong. They always spell it the other way. So
okay.
I was contemplating changing it just to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
But it's Kahn.
Okay. There you have it. Peter Kahn, CEO, Fight Game Advisors, joining me on the Sunday Sit Down series. Truly an honor to have you and Xander and Aaron today on my birthday. I don't think I want to celebrate any other way. I really mean that. You guys are special, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to do.
Well, thank you.
I mean that, man, from my heart,
that.
and I'm so excited to have
Well,
quality people in the fight game, and it's hard to find that. And two young men that really, the future is bright, inside and outside of the ring. And I look forward to them making a difference, not only in Puerto Rico, but around the world.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it, and it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Peter.